episode 83 of Union Smack is back right here on Hibiki TMD or ProWrestlingJournal.com. Whatever your tickles your fancy. What's tickling my fancy is to throw it to again weekly my co-host, the Maniac Matt Tennant. What's going on, man? Welcome back. How you been? Where can everyone catch you and all that you do?
I've been very good, very creative this week, Travis, and you can find me on Twitter, as per usual, at The Perfect Tenant. You can buy our official merchandise on our online store, unionsmack.bigcartel.com, and you can purchase my first book, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, from completelynovel.com. And like we say every week, my second book, NXT Year One, will be available to purchase shortly, as and when I can find the will to get it done.
Amen. Get over there, guys. Check it out. Pick up a shirt, pick up a book. We got you covered. And ProWrestlingJournal.com, thank you for having us. Fantastic writers here. Sponsored, brought to you by Drew Ortman, our buddy from Pro Wrestling Journal Podcast, also featured here on Hibiki TMD on YouTube. If you're catching us here, that red button right down below. Hit it, subscribe for all the goodness. Retro Gaming, Pro Wrestling, all sorts of stuff. Official announcement, MLW Podcast debuting this week. A Major League podcast of our own, Matt. I know MLW is, a lot of people don't watch it, which is a shame. It's very underrated. I wish more people would watch it. And that's why we're here, to enlighten people in the goodness of MLW and the unveiling. It's done. It's in the books. Ace Austin, the exclusive interview right here on the channel this week. So much happening, Matt.
Yeah, so much. And new year for the channel. Newer heights to be hit, Travis. So let's shoot for the stars.
Yes, sincerely, thank you again. Shout out to the X Division champion of Impact Wrestling, Ace Austin, for taking the time out of his day. He went about 30 minutes on Hibiki High Spot, so look for that this week. Like you said, man, just getting bigger and better things this week on episode NXT and episode 83 UK. Wow, I said that all jammed up. Maybe because I'm half awake, and at the same time, too, this was a very mundane episode for me, as opposed to the complete opposite of our last episode. This one was more or less, it's not like it was bad, but I just went on autopilot a lot during this, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't so much to get excited about, and thank God we're almost out of York, because the crowd also killing it for me. Not in a good way, either. But what is wrong? You know what? I love the North in England. You know, Manchester onwards, I love the place. It's a wonderful place to go, but for fuck's sake, York, what is wrong with you? I know this was the arse end of 2 nights of tapings. You've been sat there for, nearly 8 hours combined over the 2 nights, but still, like, give it some You've paid a ticket price, Don't just go there to either be silent or sing some random shit that's going to ruin it, because it's starting to notice that no one really cares, and that makes NXT UK look bad. So, pack it.
Just like when Mick Foley debuted the Mankind gimmick in '96, when he'd be rocking back and forth, sitting Indian style, in the straitjacket, in the corner with the rat. I feel like I'm going insane watching tapings from York. My God, I said it off air. I'm so sick of seeing that shitty curtain in the background, just the whole setup, this theater. I feel like we have been here for a goddamn year.
Yeah. Like these hour episodes, they feel like double. And what have we been here now? 6 weeks, 7 weeks, maybe 8 by the time we get to the end of York next week, Travis. Let's say 8 weeks. We've been here 8 weeks. It's felt like 8 months, and I won't be sad to move on to Coventry.
NXT UK gets the short stick as it is more than any other brand in WWE as far as scheduling, coming in, like the afternoon and stuff. But this week's was even worse. It had to air at 10 a.m. over here in the States due to the Super Saudi show, which, goddamn, really? I can't imagine why people aren't talking about this show more and more, Matt.
Yeah. It got shafted down the timeline for Goldberg beating the Fiend. How about that?
10 a.m. Where's Todd Pettengill? Is this fucking WWF Mania? Where's Stephanie Weiland? It's Saturday morning. Gather around and let's watch Toni Storm. Oh, God. We'll get there. But, man, that's just bad luck as far as just placement and scheduling for NXT UK this week. Man, definitely took a backseat to a shitty pay-per-view that was Super Showdown. My God.
Yeah. Agreed. Can I just say, Travis, before we start, it's like, you sound so done with this now. It's just like, you sound like you're having a mental breakdown on the end of this phone.
I do. I'm at a place, especially with main roster WWE, and I'm not going to get into the Goldberg beat Fiend. None of that. It's just as a whole. I'm kind of getting with you as far as these, just like I said, mainstream promotions where it's just more of the same shit year in and year out. Nothing really changes anymore. It's kind of the dying days of WCW where there was no telling the difference of what month the Nitro was in when the NWO had run its course, but they never killed it. It's that sort of thing, and this. Now you got two Brock Lesnar, so to speak. One Brock on one brand, another. It's just, and people are going to bitch. And Roman's in the main event, and I can't. And it's not Roman's fault. It's not Brock's fault. It's not anything. It's the fans' fault. And it's just there. I don't feel like hearing another 6 months of people bitching, and it's not worth it.
And that is the beauty of the mute button on Twitter, Travis. Which for everyone following me on Twitter, I've been using a lot lately, especially since Saturday night, since AEW Revolution. That's been clicked quite a lot.
Yeah, speaking of mute buttons, I wish I could do it for my dog's barking. Apologies right now. But no, and I think that's there's a good and bad to as many oversaturated, is the argument. There's so many wrestling promotions, but that's the good end about it too. A show like this, an AEW, if that's what you're into, a Ring of Honor, New Japan, there's alternatives, You don't have to settle for Lana promos and fucking bullshit. I don't know. There's so much. I don't know why Lana immediately comes to my mind, but I can't think of a storyline in recent memory why I didn't give any of it a chance. I didn't bother to watch 5 minutes of Lana stuff at all because I knew I wasn't going to like it. At least with NXT UK, it all starts out promising for the most part, more times than not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of promise with it. I'm not going to say storylines because a lot of these aren't. They're just like very short, TV stories. But the actual storylines that spread into takeovers, etc., hold a lot of promise. Sometimes it goes downhill very quickly, but more often than not, we get a good payoff. And I'd rather watch NXT UK right now than AEW or main roster WWE, or I'm not going to say Impact or Ring of Honor because I haven't watched them in years. But NXT UK is obviously my go-to right now.
Hold on, I'm going to pause it real quick. But yeah, one more week, Matt, and we've trudged through the valleys and the depths of York, and we will be Coventry, right? Coventry.
Yes, Coventry this weekend. And just a little plug, Travis. Tenant Talk will return next week with all the spoilers from the Coventry tapings. So do look out for that.
Boom shakalaka. That's what I like to hear. Tenant Talk's coming back sooner than later. Don't miss it. Let's get down to it, man. Let's roll up our little sleeves and get down to NXT. One more week of York. We can do this, man. Let's get into it. This show kicked off. A little opening package. Toni Storm, KLR in the main event. I Quit match for the title. I'm sure in their minds, whoever's producing this and writing this, they're like, oh, what a build we've done. In my mind, it's meh. Kaylee Ray deserves a better counterpart right now. Bottom line.
Yeah, she deserves a better challenger. She deserves a better story. This video package, it was good on Kaylee Ray's end. She showed some real, anger, and she looked like a badass. But Toni Storm, she tried the emotion. It just looked like she was doing a big poo. Sorry, Toni, but promos and emotion are not her forte.
It's got to be up to at least bare minimum 20 episodes we've said the same thing over the course of the years about Toni Storm. It feels forced in this role, whereas it's so natural when she's a heel. The Gold Coast, and I'm sexy as shit, and I'm better than you. She just nails that to a T.
Yep, and this is just. I mean, obviously we'll get into the main event, what happens, etc., and what's next for Toni Storm possibly, but. You're right. It's got to be more than 20 episodes, Travis. This goes back to 2019, like January last year, when she won the title. It's like the promos are no good, the matches aren't much better. She was doing fine around Download Festival when she took on that unhinged Gollum-esque gimmick,
Yeah.
But they dropped that like a hot shit, and they reverted back to this. and it's an albatross around her neck. It's the anchor that's weighed her down, and now she's drowning.
And this just came off to me like, not necessarily the match, the main event this week, but just the course of this entire build. All of her promos have just seemed like phone it in until she's called up to NXT, which is what's happening. She's on her way out. She doesn't really have to give a shit. Why should she? Nobody watches this fucking show weekly anyway. And I think she knows that. And I think a lot of the talent knows that. I think that's why we see phoned in Travis Banks and phoned in Dave Mastiff and all these fucking guys who are so much better than how they're presented.
Yeah, agreed. And it's sad. It's sad because it's like the takeovers are packed, the tapings aren't packed, and they look at the ticket sales of the tapings and the half-empty arenas and the tarped off seats, and they think, why the fuck should we care? If people can't even be bothered to watch it regularly and turn up for every taping, then why should we put our best forward?
If the promotion, and also the umbrella promotion, the banner you're under, doesn't even consider, the courtesy of moving your show to another day at the same time. I mean, yes, that could confuse viewers, but not as much as 10 a.m. And plus, no one's going to get up at 10 a.m. when they got to get up for a noon, 8-hour salty show anyway. So, I mean, at least give the brand a fair chance.
Yeah.
And it seems like every time these guys on the roster and the booking and it all comes together, or the takeover shows, I put out the tweet this week, like, there's no reason anybody that should be saying Revolution from AEW was better than Blackpool 2. Blackpool 2 was so much better, but no one's saying it because NXT UK never capitalizes on the momentum of these shows, ever. They never capitalize.
No.
And it goes away.
No, they don't. They don't. They have a big show, and then it's just a big slide downhill with inferior storylines and make do. That's the best way I can describe it, Travis. It's let's make do until we have to start a new build for the next takeover. And
it's unacceptable that they have never yet, to this day, I feel like, fully capitalized. Back 100-some days now when Kaylee Ray won the title to bring it all back. And that's how they open the show. We'll get back to these two ladies to round it out. We're not going to spend too much right in here. Let's get into what this week's episode kicked off with. On paper, seems like it would be a very hard-hitting goddamn fire of a tag team match. I feel like these two guys' styles would mesh, and what I watched here, it was a good match. It wasn't amazing. I don't feel like by any stretch of the imagination was it takeover worthy, but this crowd, once again, this goddamn fucking York crowd with their bipolar bullshit, and I know they're taped so out of order. I get that too. This is probably towards the end of one of the two nights. Just so not into this, and not even at the finish at all. Nothing really. A flat line goddamn crowd through the entire thing. Matt killed it for me. Even though, like we were saying off air, I love the Hunt's double T move, the DVD into the sit down powerbomb, tremendous. I just Grizzled Young Veterans in general, everything they do, I'm a fan of. It's just what a discredit to these two teams to be treated like this. But shocker.
Yeah, agreed. And do you know what? At this point, I think Grizzled Young Veterans are just sadly and the team on the roster. You know what I mean? They feel ordinary. They don't feel special anymore. And judging by a tweet James Drake sent out tonight, Monday night, the night we record this, it sounds like they're off to NXT full time, at least for the foreseeable future.
I think they're better suited for that too, because say what you want about NXT right now. Yes, it's a good brand, but it needs to feel a little more worldly. And I think that all brands have suffered that since NXT UK's launched. They've taken all the worldly talent kind of stuff. And I get it, but that was one of the beauties of WWE and back in the day, and that you'd have like these random worldly guys. And they're getting back to that with Pete Dunne moving up, and you know what I mean.
Oh, I know what you mean. I just think it's a huge loss, because looking at the title scene now, it's like Zach Gibson was surely, in line for the throne. It's like Walter is going to defend the title, it looks like, against Finn Balor in Dublin, which means he's not even going to get an NXT UK challenger. It's like they don't trust Jordan Devlin enough to put him in the main event, so it's looking like it's going to be Finn Balor. That could all change this weekend, of course, but for now, that looks like it's going to be the main event in Dublin. And so, who next? So you don't trust your stars enough to put them in the main event with the champion. So what are you going to do after? There's no build. There's no one laying in wait anymore. Zach Gibson's moving up. He's another name to be taken out the frame.
And you're right. And on the other end of what I'm saying about making the main roster more worldly, it takes shows like this and it guts them of its talent. Now, is Mustache Mountain and the Mega Powers roles as the 2-man powerful enough to keep this afloat with top guys? And that's questionable. That's questionable. Eddie Dennis isn't. People don't want him in that role. I don't feel like, at least not on this show. People just don't want that.
No, they don't. No, and I think it's going to be left to Mustache Mountain now. Jordan Devlin isn't going to get a title shot, it looks like, while he's still Cruiserweight champion. We can rule him out. Zach Gibson's going up to NXT, it looks like, so we can rule him out. So what's left? Trent Seven at the next takeover after Dublin, and then Walter drops it to Tyler Bate? Or are they going to go the whole hog and have him drop it to Finn Balor just for the pop, and then have Finn Balor, I don't know, make regular appearances for NXT UK? And see what happens there. I don't know. I certainly don't want them to put it on Finn Balor at all right now. Yeah, regular listeners will know I'm not a fan of Finn Balor.
Putting it on Finn Balor would just feel like a giant Band-Aid for now. That's all it would feel like.
Yeah. But you know what I can see him doing? Give it to Finn Balor and then have Finn Balor versus Jordan Devlin somewhere down the line and put it on Devlin. Because that's a story they can play out on NXT TV. With Devlin over there regular. Honestly, if that's the way it's going, then it's going to zap my interest heavily.
If only they could have got to that end of the road in time for Dublin. It's so sad that there's not enough time for that. I mean, they could, but it would be so rushed. Would it even be good and worth it by then?
It'd have to be every episode to build it.
Yeah.
Until Dublin. And then there's only 6 to 7 episodes left before we get to Ireland for TakeOver. So it would have to be, Travis, a hell of a story and a hell of a build to shoehorn Jordan Devlin into that role now.
Yeah. Let's try to get back on track. I know that there's a lot of stuff on this week's episode. We're going to probably wish we were talking about anything else, but this is one of the better things on this week's show, if anything. This in-ring. What did you think of the in-ring? We can both agree on the shitty dead crowd. What did you think of the in-ring and the outcome of the match and the booking?
I thought it was a very competitive match. James Drake has come such a long way since last year as both an in-ring competitor and a character, I feel. I very much enjoy James Drake now. But like I said to you before we came on air, Primate, I'm cold on. I don't like anything he does in the ring. Mike Hitchman deserves better. But do you know what? It was fine, the match. It wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't anything special. Grizzled Young Veterans did well, with their tag team psychology, cutting the ring in half. Don't go out your way to watch it, but if you've got nothing better on, then stick it on the telly.
Yeah, there you go. If you're, it's going to be gross. If you're taking a poop and want 5 minutes to kill, throw it up. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Standard.
Where'd that take us to next, Matt?
That took us to a vignette hyping Ridge Holland, and we're told he is in action next week, Travis. I know we spoke a bit about Ridge Holland before we hit record, but, I mean, what would you do with Ridge Holland if you were booking it right now?
He seems like he's he's like an old school heel, just by his appearance. Like, even though he wasn't a credible guy at all, Big Bully Busick, he kind of reminds me of that with the hat, but I feel like he's like a serious Big Bully Busick, if that makes sense.
I mean, would you push him towards Walter? Like, if you got desperate, or would you just go with anyone else right now?
I've seen literally zero of him in this character. I know I've seen him in his past gimmick, so I can't really say. I'd have to see at least one match to properly. But just from the little vignette, I mean, it's a throwback, that's for sure, and it stands out. Maybe it's like, what do they like to say? It's like a new pair of pants. Just got to wear into them. Maybe I'll like one. I don't know. It's different.
Yeah. I mean, it's different, but he's not ready. Not yet. He's had Tyson T-Bone. I think he fought Jack Stars a few weeks back. And that's it. That's been Ridge Holland so far. So for me, it's too early to tell. He needs at least a year, like, proper experience, and then maybe. But right now, it's like his mid-card title at best.
Speaking of Jack Stars, our boys come home, Matt.
What about that for a segue? Yes, Kassius Ohno, Jack Stars, and I was surprised by how long this went.
Me too.
And by how much Jack Stars actually got in and how good he looked.
I thought the same thing watching it, but like 30 seconds later, I was like, I'm surprised at that, but should I be surprised that Kassius Ohno was given an enhancement match to get over? Is that what I really should be surprised about? Like, Kassius Ohno, that's all you got? I can't imagine why York isn't hanging from the fucking rafters at these tapings.
Yeah. I mean, there is that argument, but they wanted to get Ohno on the show.
But why? Why? When you're showing vignettes of Travis Banks saying the same fucking thing every week, I got to sit through an enhancement match with Kassius Ohno, this 40-year-old guy who's never going to do anything ever again in WWE prominently, in my opinion. They're done with him. He's just a used toy on the shelf.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that. I think they're hoping he can still be like, not the main baddie, but the JBL character without the title, you know? Just the prick that you want to see people like Tyler Bate and Trent Seven, etc. beat in, on their way to the main event.
And that's what they should have booked Joe Coffey to be much better at. That's what Joe Coffey should be right now, but they failed. They dropped the ball on that booking with him. The back and forth bullshit for no reason.
Yeah, agreed. They've fucked Joe Coffey right up. But I'm not too sure with Kassius Ohno. I enjoyed it when he first got here. Now it's just repetitive. It's like wrestling genius trying to wrestle British style, and yeah, he's good at it. But at the same time, it's like you've got a roster full of people I'd rather see than this.
I'm gonna give a take this
Kassius
week.
Ohno has to do anything.
Go ahead. My bad. No, go ahead. My bad. Apologies.
I was just going to say, if Kassius Ohno has to be anywhere in NXT UK, I'd prefer it in the Performance Centre.
Behind the camera. Training guys.
Yeah, behind the camera. Train the next, tomorrow's superstars. You've got people that are signing now on the dotted line who are going to spend 6 months in the PC before getting called up. Give them to Kassius Ohno. Let him impart the knowledge, impart how it's done on television, because a lot of them have never been on television before, and let that be his role. He'll be much more effective than squashing jobbers for no reason.
As much as a waste of time as this matching segment was for me, and in bigger picture, it really is. I will say, and this is my hot take of the week, and people can disagree up and down. I don't care because that's how I feel. I like the in-ring to this match for the most part better than the main event.
I knew you were going to say that.
Come at me.
I think we're probably going to disagree a bit. I thought this was better than his match with Dave Mastiff in Blackpool, but it was I don't know. It was a more exciting match than I was expecting. It had a decent finish. I don't know. I don't think it was better than the main event for me. For the first time this week, we disagree.
Well, one of the things I think put this over the top for the main event for me is Kassius Ohno was working like a heel. And as much as we praise Kaylee Ray, I got to be honest too, she should have done more of the simple old school thing. There was a lot of trash talk from Kassius Ohno in this match. We don't see enough of that from top heels at all anymore, except like Jericho, maybe. That's it. What happened to MJF? What happened to the days of guys just talking shit while they worked a good match? I long for those days. It's just such a little thing that works and gets guys over that hurdle a lot of times to hate them that much more.
Yeah, agreed.
We spent way too much time on this match, that's for sure. Was this the Kassius Ohno getting the win? And from here, where we go, I have no clue. Probably more of the same, just this wrestling genius elitist thing, just something to kill time on these tapings for no reason.
Yeah, but he can play such a bigger part. He's got it annoys me when they waste him like this, because he would be better back in the Performance Centre. But if you give him an actual storyline that runs and runs and runs, then maybe we can see something different from him. But I just don't know whether he's got the patience to do that anymore. He does seem a very one and done wrestler now.
Maybe they'll make him the mentor, Joseph Connors.
Oh my God!
He'll be his Arnie Skoland.
Oh please stop!
There you go. Oh my, oh my. Was this Travis Banks segment next?
No, it wasn't. This was Radzi and Isla Dawn.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. My bad.
Yeah, Isla Dawn basically informed us that she'd be fighting Aoife Valkyrie next week. This could have been done with a graphic, Travis. Just a simple graphic on the screen, just to just save time.
You know what else you could do is put Isla Dawn in a prominent angle. We're gonna go back to Piper Niven, really. That's where we're building to. I hate to burst everybody's bubble. If you couldn't tell by the obvious booking to the main event this week, we're going back to Piper. And as much as I love Piper Niven, I'm ready for some new blood in that scene.
Yeah, me too. But again, it comes back to the fact that they just don't trust the younger stars.
Nope.
You've got Piper Niven there. They'd prefer to go with her rather than an Isla Dawn. Yeah. I don't think Isla Dawn's ready for a takeover yet, but
you know what helps get her ready? Experience. Doing something besides vignettes.
Get her on fucking TV more, yeah.
Shout out to Travis Banks, too.
She's showing so much promise.
Just that it's not like she's ever blown me away, but I feel like there's a ton to mold and work with there and to shape and season.
Oh, there is. She's got so much promise, and she's done so well in advancing her game over the last couple of weeks, let alone the last year. But they're just not giving her the opponents. They're not giving her the right stories. They're not allowing her to flourish in longer angles than one match, and that's what she really needs. You know, for people to buy into her, she needs a good story. She needs a long angle on television, and she needs more than a 2.5 minute, squash match.
You know what this show needs more of is the queen of NXT UK, Jenny, who is sorely lacking in any segment this week.
I don't think she's going to be prominent for a while, I'm afraid, Travis.
Well, that's just not good enough.
Even in Coventry.
That's unacceptable.
I don't see her in a big role for Dublin. I'd like to say... Can I say... I'd like to see them go back to the Ginny Isla Dawn rivalry. They had a match before the first ever takeover in Blackpool last year. It was a decent television match. They never capitalised on it. They never let Isla Dawn get her victory.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and a year on, with the experience both women have got now, I'd very much like to see that. But I'd like to see it culminate at a takeover where Isla Dawn finally gets some big recognition.
There's a right way to build up women that aren't in the title picture just to get them on TV and exposure too. And you could do that. And you could have it, maybe get a third person in there to get them exposure as like her new hired gun. And it's like going up against this whole posh army like she does in Progress. And Nina Samuels, she's just there doing nothing. Why don't you finally make them a stable like they are in Progress and other places,
Yep, agreed. Do you know what? Throw Zaya Brookside in there as well. Where's Zaya Brookside?
Yeah, where the fuck has she been? Has she been injured? I don't think we've ever found her.
No, I don't think she has. She's been wrestling, here and there for other indie promotions, but NXT just haven't brought her in. It's like she had all this momentum going with Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert, and then killed it dead because they didn't follow up on it again.
Yeah. I feel like now that we said that, we're going to see her pop up at Coventry for sure. We're going to jinx it. Not jinx it. I enjoy her work, but I'm just saying. Guys, can you tell we're reaching for stuff to talk about for this week's episode? By the way, we're trying to give you guys the most entertaining show possible. It's just when they give you a bland fucking baked potato with nothing on it when you ask for dinner and you got to put on the fixings yourself, it's hard sometimes to find all the butter and the sour cream, Matt, and all the stuff you want on your baked potato.
Yeah, but we're good at scouting around the kitchen, Travis. We're good at making do, I think.
Let's try to whip up some tasty goulash next. Is one of our up-and-coming favorites. A-Kid is in action, Matt.
Yes, we did have the Travis Banks challenge to Alexander Wolf before this. But like you said, it's just more of the same.
More of the same.
Travis Banks.
Yep. Seen one, you've seen them all.
I hate to pop anyone's bubble who doesn't like spoilers, but I think we all know how this ends.
Ugh.
And it's not going to be well for Travis Banks.
For Alexander Wolf.
I know.
Jesus Christ. Anyway.
But next up, you're right. A-Kid versus Brian Kendrick.
Tell you what, I like seeing Brian Kendrick featured like this a hell of a lot more than the last time we saw him.
Really? Because I thought this was just as boring.
Not as far as the match wasn't amazing by any stretch or blew me away, but I just as far as the pacing of the match, it told A-Kid really is an up-and-comer and a young kid. He is pretty much brand new to the business, so it's not like, yes, he struggled in there with Kendrick, but it made sense more. It's kind of like when the 1-2-3 Kid first debuted is what I was comparing it to watching it. The old school nerd in me was like, oh, yeah, it makes sense because he's so young. But if this was a guy like Travis Banks in there struggling with Brian Kendrick, not acceptable, which, you know.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. And it would have done A-Kid a lot of good to be in there with someone like Brian Kendrick, obviously, who got the experience.
And A-Kid got the decisive victory at the end of it, and that's all that really matters. That's all the people are going to remember from this match, except for guys like us.
Yeah, I mean, be honest, did you actually watch the match, or was your head in your phone like I was?
I was just like you. I was just like you.
I just didn't want to watch it. I don't want to see Brian Kendrick in a ring, especially a British one, ever again.
As soon as you see Brian Kendrick, it's Virgil territory. Like back in the day, you automatically know what's going to happen. You automatically know why he's there and what his job is. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm not going to miss anything. So you can afford to look at a timeline on a Twitter, or you can make a sandwich and come back. You know, it's just it. And you know what? That's every pro wrestling show in the beginning of time. There's at least one worker on the roster like that, and that's their job. You need guys like that to make any show work. But we don't need to see him so much. We don't need to see him so much like we did in the 80s. We don't need fucking Reno Riggins every week on TV. Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
Ugh. Reno forever. Anyway, this match, it was what it was. It like, you know,
Yeah, it was a match. It passed the time. It got A-Kid over. And please don't come back, Brian Kendrick.
Well, I will say the crowd was just like us, apparently, because, and you know, I will defend them. I will defend them on this. This had to be, what, the third or fourth time they had seen A-Kid in 2 days at these tapings?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you go.
And the second time they'd seen Brian Kendrick.
The second time to see Brian Kendrick's like seeing any other guy 30 times, so, boom.
And do you know, this is how long York has felt, for people who haven't watched. Brian Kendrick versus Travis Banks was on the first taping of the first night of action in York, and it seems like months ago we watched it, Travis, and it was literally just before Worlds Collide.
I've trimmed my beard twice since then, I feel like, Matt. Just keeps growing back, just like Brian Kendrick's booking placement.
Oh dear.
I hope I never see this match again, though. I will say that I don't feel like they had tremendous chemistry. I feel like they should have had better chemistry. I feel like Brian Kendrick's been doing this long enough that he should go out there with kind of any guy of any style. Does that say at the end of the day? I mean, I've never went to wrestling school, but man, it's just some guys, like you said, they need to just go to the PC and be behind the scenes before they completely tarnish what little legacy they have left.
Yeah, agreed. Brian Kendrick is one of those, again, like Kassius Ohno, more effective training than in front of an audience.
But so is the Universal Heavyweight Champion. So, I mean, what do you want? He's not even worthy to be training guys anyway. So, fuck. That was that. And A-Kid gets the decisive win. I don't know where they're going. Probably more of the same filler, just telling the tale of 2020 for the most part. It's like, by the end of 2020, maybe I could see him getting a takeover shot, but probably not for A-Kid. I don't see it happening.
Do you know what? I'm going to disagree, Travis. I can see A-Kid versus Jordan Devlin in Dublin for the Cruiserweight title.
Ooh. You're going hard. You're going.
That's my bold booking prediction.
I could see it now, though.
We'll know by Sunday night whether we're ready.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Up next, before we get to the main event, Matt, but I think there's one more segment, right?
Yes, a short video package for Dave Mastiff versus Walter for the NXT United Kingdom Championship.
This wasn't
next week.
This wasn't horribly produced at all, and I think the sound bites they got out of Mastiff were good, but we're our own worst enemies because we've known the spoiler forever, and we weren't, even if we didn't know the spoiler, the way they've handled Mastiff, which is a dead horse we're not going to get into, but he should be taken way more serious right now than he is. That didn't help me get into this at all, and it was done well, but I wasn't into it just because of where we're at for the most part.
No, agreed. And the fact that Walter's appeared on, NXT television with the United Kingdom Championship following these tapings is probably a huge spoiler for anyone watching. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But I'm not really excited for this match at all. I've heard from various people it is very good indeed.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it's going to be a big old fucking house battle. But there's no incentive. It wasn't done at a takeover. And it's just one and done, I feel like. We're not going to get it again, so what's the fucking point?
Agreed. And you know what? This is another missed opportunity. It's like Dave Mastiff could have filled a spot at TakeOver for Walter until they, found someone else underneath. So you could have padded Walter's title reign out with Dave Mastiff, Trent Seven, and then have him drop it to either Tyler Bate or Jordan Devlin.
No, devil's advocate, Matt. We got to be fair. We got to call our own bullshit and our own bias sometimes. It's more or less, though, a lot of what Pete Dunne's reign was, too. A lot of meaningless transitional victories just to get the resume build up for Pete's reign. That's what they're doing with Walter here. It's more of that. But with Pete, it was younger in the brand's existence, so there was a lot more possibilities you could go with places, and his entire reign was treated like royalty, as opposed to Walter's kind of had spurts where it hasn't felt important at all. Yeah, agreed.
And right now, it doesn't feel important at all.
No.
It feels like they're just giving him meaningless matches and short feuds to get him through to the next pay-per-view. And of course, when Pete Dunne was champion, it's like there wasn't a pay-per-view to begin with to get him through to. So everything felt special. But now it's just like, between Blackpool and Dublin, there's like 3 months, and it's just like, well, what have we got for Walter?
Walter feels about
in them 3 months.
He feels about as important now as Kaylee Ray does when she shows up on NXT as the NXT UK Women's Champion, who she takes a total backseat to everybody when she does that.
Yeah. It's sad, isn't it? It's like your two most important champions on the roster, and they don't feel important at all right now.
But we're the little engine that could. We're here. We're not going to give up hope. We're going to trudge through, and my God, it's time to trudge through and get through this. Main event time. Toni Storm's final stand. The last shot. This is Toni Storm's last match ever in NXT UK. That's what it was. An I Quit match for the title. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, they've tried and tried and tried. Speaking of the little engine that couldn't again, but this little engine just kind of always ran out of steam, and they didn't bring enough coal along to keep it going, because Toni Storm, to me, it always starts out pretty decent, but it always fizzles out, and I don't know what the fuck it is. I cannot still put my finger on it, why she sucks in this role. I just can't.
No, me neither. And I could swear she's got no chemistry with absolutely anyone she's fought in NXT UK. And again, not just here, this goes back, all the way to Rhea Ripley. She had no chemistry with Ripley, even though they're good friends.
Yeah.
She had no chemistry with Ginny, one of her oldest opponents, Travis. She's fought Ginny X amount of times, yet there was no chemistry between them. Her and Candy Floss, little chemistry between them.
Her and Nina Samuels had a good fucking match, though. Who knew?
Who knew? And then she gets to Kaylee Ray, and again, fought her all over the world. No chemistry in Cardiff whatsoever. It took a triple threat match to give Toni Storm her best match in NXT UK ever.
Well, that sums it up then. Nina Samuel should be just training the entire women's division backstage, I guess.
Oh, stop. Fuck that.
How crazy is that, though? All the gauntlet Toni Storm kind of went through as champion, and it feels like the only memorable, decent one was Nina Samuels, probably the lowest booked, prominently booked person out of all of them. What the fuck?
Yeah, agreed.
This match started off as a banger. it started off pretty decent, but it lost me so much. It just fizzled out again. There's that word. It just, and the end was so cartoony and damsel in distress tied to the railroad track, and I just didn't like it. I know you DM me, you didn't. I'm with you. It didn't work for me, and it made Toni Storm look so fucking weak and pathetic, in my opinion.
It did. And you know, I thought when Kaylee Ray hit that draping DDT from the apron onto the floor, I thought, well, this is going to be the start of 10, maybe 12 minutes of like solid heel neck work, to really weaken the neck.
No,
he didn't. No, and then but this is what should have happened, Travis. Like, constant work on the neck, wear her down. Toni Storm looks the hero by refusing to continue, even though she's facing paralysis and she can't go anymore. And then Kaylee Ray stomps on her neck once, she doesn't quit. She stomps on her neck twice, she doesn't quit. Almost paralyzes her until she finally can't take it anymore, and she has to quit. But begrudgingly, after such a torturous trial, that would have served her better. But to have her neck put in the fucking chair, stomped on once, and then just scream like a little bitch that she quits almost in tears, it's like, so the title didn't really mean that much to you after all then.
Maybe their plan was to have Piper Niven throw in the towel, but AEW did it first with MJF and Cody. No, I'm just kidding. It was so dumb. It was just like, really, is she a little kid? And it's not like she was just bound and gagged and chained up. She could have got out of it. Shit. And I know
what made it more preposterous though was the fact that the chair. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just supposed to say we're supposed to suspend our disbelief, but sometimes there's a line, there's a limit to that.
Yeah, agreed. What made it more preposterous for me though was like the last bit. She put her head in that chair, Travis, and the lip of the chair was on the top of her breast. It was nowhere near her throat.
Yeah. Yep. My implants don't. They're expensive. I quit.
That's why she quit, isn't it? So she didn't pop them.
Shit's not cheap, man. Money doesn't grow on trees, especially in the UK. Everybody knows that.
I don't know. This was my least favourite of them. I wanted this match to be so good as well. When it came on, I had high hopes that this is probably going to be it for Toni Storm. Obviously, because we knew the spoilers in advance.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be good for Toni Storm because she's had such a mixed time of it in NXT UK. I wanted her to go out on a high, and she didn't.
Bottom line, nobody is talking about this match this week. This got no play on social media. Nobody blinked an eye. It was immediately glossed over by the controversy of the Super Showdown main event. This should have been, if anything, this should have been the fucking takeover match, for Christ's sakes, as Tony's final send-off. It made no sense to do it here at York, of all places, during this marathon of tapings in front of a crowd. They had to know this crowd was going to be exhausted and dead. And that sums up a lot of these tapings, man, not just this match. So many main events this stretch. Fucking 2 weeks ago, Birch and Lorcan against GYV suffered the same fate just because of a crowd. And the crowd was kind of into it, but by the end, even for the finish, didn't care. Didn't fucking care, because Toni Storm is not clicking. I think that's the thing people aren't addressing. And we're not afraid to. Yes, everyone's in love with Toni Storm, and she was great on the indies, but she's not on that stage anymore. And she has yet to make a proper transition. The only time I saw her look semi-passable as a fucking megastar, as she should be right now, is with Kairi Sane, and then her Mae Young Classic matches. She looked like a star in there. And I was just like, what the fuck's happened? I don't get it.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Even at Survivor Series, she came off as mundane. Sorry, Matt. I'm sorry. That's it.
Yeah, she was. Wait, didn't she tap out at Survivor Series?
She did.
She did. There you go. So she tapped out at Survivor Series. She quit here. This should have been put on in Dublin for her last hurrah, not just given away free on about 12 minutes, I think it took her to quit.
At 10:30 in the morning.
Awful.
While everyone's having their fucking oatmeal, Toni Storm's, her career's on the line.
And now we've got what, a 7-week build to Kaylee Ray versus Piper Niven in Dublin.
My only hope that if this is it for Toni Storm and it's NXT time for Toni time, I only hope that they've learned their lesson with this bust and failed experiment, and she's brought in as a heel against Rhea Ripley.
I can't see it happening because like she still gets cheered a lot. You know, she still gets her name sung. I don't think NXT management look at Toni Storm and think people just don't like her. Maybe they look at her and think, right, she hasn't put her best foot forward here like a lot of them. But in NXT, she'll be beloved, she'll be cheered, so we'll keep her as a babyface.
And you can't tell me Vinnie Mac doesn't look at her and go, oh, it's Kelly, but she can work. Eternal babyfacer.
Do you think Vince McMahon's ever watched NXT UK?
I'm sure he watched Survivor Series when all those NXT women were there.
I mean, he did, but you can't judge Toni Storm off of that. Even Vince McMahon.
Even Vince McMahon, though, Matt. Let's think about the things we say. This is the same man that's done a lot of silly things.
True. Yeah, he totally did that.
Shout out to Cesaro and so many guys with their blossoming careers. I don't want to go out this way and depressing, but man, they're not really giving us any other option the way this show went off the air this week. Of course, Toni Storm tapping out in the guillotine chair. Just the repeated, it reminded me of when Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7 reference again, just kept giving the Warrior elbow after elbow after elbow. Just Kaylee Ray did that until finally Toni couldn't take it anymore. Piper Niven runs down in her Raven shirt tied around her waist. I don't know why. And that was it. And that's how we went off the air with Kaylee Ray celebrating. Obviously, they're transitioning to Piper Niven next. What do you grade this week's NXT UK episode 83?
I'm going to give it a C minus, Travis, simply because the main event disappointed. You know, again, we've gone back as well. We've reverted for the second week in a row to 4 matches per show, and it's too much.
Yeah. I'm pretty much with you, man. C minus, D plus even, I could say, because I was just on my phone more than I should be for trying to enjoy any wrestling show, especially for 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, that's not a lot of time I should be asking at all, but if you can't captivate me in that amount of time, there's a problem.
Yeah. And I know they started working towards TakeOver with Kaylee Ray and Piper Niven, but at the same time, it's like there's too much that doesn't matter on these shows now. You know, and now they're going to cram everything into Coventry, and the Coventry crowd aren't going to care. And it's just they should have started the build for TakeOver in the beginning of February, like a solid build for TakeOver in the beginning of February, because apart from the main event and the women's title match, it's like, can you see like any other standout matches for Dublin?
No, I feel like also they've waited too long to pull the trigger on a secondary title. Even if they did by now, nobody would care. They've let this whole roster run stagnant for almost 2 complete years at this point. Criminal.
It is criminal. It is. And do you know what? I would welcome a European Championship, but I don't know whether I would hold out much hope for it now.
They just
with two what?
Yeah. Go on. No, go on. They've got us at a loss for words, guys. They've got us heartbroken this week.
3 years into, you know, I think we're having some delay issues, but what I was going to say is, we're 3 years into NXT UK / what was WWE United Kingdom Championship, etc. And, you know, some of the same faces are still there that people don't care about, apart from Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. You've buried Joe Coffey. You've as good as buried Dave Mastiff to the point where nobody wants to see him. You know, there's no standout challengers for the titles anymore, to the point you're having to look to NXT for a challenger for the UK Championship. I don't want to say NXT UK is in a a state at the minute, but it's getting close to, I'd say, a critical condition.
Critical Condition should be the name of a tag team, by the way. How has that not happened?
Maybe on Fire Pro. That's for another day.
At least a finisher. Until next week, Matt. One more time. With that, let's tie the bow on this week's episode. Fire Pro, man. That just makes me smile and cheers me right up from this week's show. Until next time, where can everyone catch you and all that you do?
You can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can find our official merchandise. Do you know what, Travis? I nearly forgot that. All the times we've bought it, and I nearly forgot it. You can find our official merchandise on our... I did it again. On our online shop. It's late. Leave me alone.
No, it's York. That's what I'm telling you, man. It's
shop.
York. York is what's doing it to us. It's driving us insane. We can't even do our jobs proper at this point.
I feel like it's done what it did to the audience. It's just drained us. Yeah, we've got one more week of York. Let's hold on to that nice thought. Like, one more week and we're out of there.
York,
commentary.
like going to these York tapings is the equivalent to eating a giant bowl of pasta and a turkey sandwich, and you just pass out from all the starch and the tryptophan and all that. Ugh.
Oh, God. Oh, right. Where was I? Yeah. Merch from unionsmack.bigcartel.com, and you can buy my book, The Undertaker Trip Down Death Valley, from completelynovel.com, with my second book to come soon this year.
Very good, very good. And
Can we go home now, Travis?
We can go home. Once I say that, they can follow me on Twitter at TheHibickyTND. That red button right down below on YouTube, hit it. All the best, subscribe. Retro Gaming, Pro Wrestling, Heavy Metal Podcast, Harry Belay press conferences, all the nerdy funny bones on your fucking body. We're going to tickle it. And ProWrestlingJournal.com. Thank you to Drew Ortman for featuring us. All these fantastic writers covering every promotion in professional wrestling for the most part. If it happened in a ring, though, they're still your thing. Until next week, Union Smack. Fuck York. Cheerio, mates.